Hello and welcome to Check 1 2, where we give you the lowdown on testicular cancer by talking to survivors, advocates and supporters here at the world famous podcast studio Glasgow. Today we're joined by the incredibly talented artist David Andrews, known by his creative moniker And At What Cost. David has faced an extraordinary journey through testicular cancer, from a long road to diagnosis and intense treatment, including 4 rounds of BEP, chemotherapy and RPLND surgery, to navigating the mental health and the physical toll it took on his life. In this episode, David opens up about everything. The harsh realities of chemo, the support he found in the unexpected places like the Maggie Centres and online forums, and how he turned his challenges into creative fuel. Whether it's coping with the chemo smell, finding strength to kick it in the dick energy, or reflecting on progress one day at a time. David's story is as raw as it gets, and as inspiring as it gets too. So sit back, relax, and join us for this powerful conversation as David shares how he turned his testicular cancer journey into a story of resilience and creativity. So let's get into
it. So my name's David. I'm an artist, also known as And At What Cost. Project manager for a graphic design studio, and my cancer journey started about 2 years ago. I kind of want to preempt this by saying that it was a long journey, but it was longer than most. And I hope that anybody kind of listening to this has a much shorter journey through it, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, I found a lump. It was one of those kind of things that you hear about, like, oh, I found a lump. And oddly, I'd sat awkwardly at my desk one day and I just felt something pop. I was like, oh, that is uncomfortable. So I got home and I was still kind of nursing this like dull pain. And men being men, we'll sit watching telly, hands down the jeans, like something's not right here. Like there was a lump maybe the size of a lentil, like half a pea, on the bottom of my testicle. And I said to my partner, it's not normal, is it? And so we got up, Google, and I thought, this is kind of what it looks like under the surface. And you think, oh yeah, I can probably see it, but I'll go to the doctors just for a quick check. And it was a locum doctor, and I called up, made the appointment, and it was she had a feel down there and went, oh, it's not cancer. And you go, oh, wicked.
Yes.
Bit of a spring in your step. Oh, I'll give you some antibiotics. If it don't clear up, we'll see what's what.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 weeks go by, antibiotics done. Still there. Went in to see a different doctor. I wouldn't have thought it's cancer, but we'll try some different antibiotics. STI test, the full works. But we'll get you booked in for an ultrasound as well, just to be safe. You go, okay, right. 2 weeks go by, antibiotics still haven't worked. Go to my ultrasound. Something's not right. I don't know what it is, but So, yeah, a different doctor called me up and said, look, it's come back inconclusive. We obviously know that something's going on in there. And we just want to send you up to urology. But wouldn't worry, like 10% is going to be cancer. Like there's 90% other things that it can be. And you go, oh, okay, cool. So I went up to St James's, affectionately known as Jimmy's, parked up. And as you're walking in, there's a huge sign, like 2 meters, saying Leeds Cancer Centre. And you go, shit.
Yeah.
So you just, if you can't do it brave, do it scared, right?
Yeah.
So I walked up, urologist there. Yeah, feels pretty cancerous to me. But if it is, we'll whip it out on Friday. And you go, like, I've had a month, 6 weeks of kind of beating around the bush a little bit. This was the first person that said, this is probably what it is. And it wasn't necessarily that I wanted it to be cancer, obviously, but I just wanted a straight answer. And if it was that, then I could deal with it. So yeah, takes me down to ultrasound. And the guy sent doing his work, kind of making all these noises. And you go, okay, all right. So he stands me up, wipes the gel off, stands me up and says, okay, it's positive. And you go, wicked. Positive that, positive that it's cancer. And you go, oh, right, okay. He said, you look a bit shell-shocked. I was like, well, nobody's given me a straight answer. So I didn't want it to be this. And you just kind of go on autopilot a bit.
Yeah.
So the first thing was sit down that corridor and, we'll get you an x-ray sorted. Poor nurse, man. She says, hi, how are you doing today? Just confirm your name and date of birth. How are you doing? I just found out I got cancer. And she just went, oh. I hadn't told my partner, I hadn't told my parents. It was literally just 5 minutes ago, still a bit shell-shocked.
Yeah.
So 6 months earlier, I'd started my job as a project manager. So I was so used to like calling the shots a little bit, telling people what needs to be done and where to go and what timeframes are needed and this, that, and the other. And it was such a whiplash thing to go from that to like the hospital just outlining everything to go, right, well, it just sets those wheels in motion. It's like, well, you need to be here at this time for this, and then we'll do a follow up like appointment on this day, this date. You need to be here at this time, and it's just such a whirlwind that you need to just abide by, I guess, and get caught up in.
Well, it's like you're kind of swimming with the tide, isn't it? It's like everything's rushing past and you're just getting dragged along, to whatever destination you're going to get to.
Yeah. So had the orchiectomy. So it was my left one. Which one was yours?
Left as well.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
fair dues. I thought we might have a full pair together.
No, we're both just sitting in the middle with the righties.
So had that out, and I thought, well, that's fine. That's done. It's, and nothing had kind of prepared me for spread. Yeah. You go on Macmillan, for example, and it's it may have spread, and it's just so new. And my nurse Betty was amazing. She was so good at kind of helping me navigate all the acronyms, because it's like a whole new language that you need to get on board with, and it's you need your LDH levels, and you go, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a blood test. You go, okay, cool. I like to kind of understand roughly what it is, but I don't need to go into the intricacies of it. If someone had just said, oh yeah, this is what your liver produces when you've got cancer or something, you go, all right, cool. Mm-hmm. I can roll with that. So I can't remember whether I had the full scan first or after, and blood tests. And she goes, oh, your tumour markers are still going up. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, oh, need a bit of chemo. So I went in thinking, if I need a couple of days of chemo just to mop up all the bad cells.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
You know, a bit of morbid curiosity. I've heard that it feels like your bones are on fire, and you go, I mean, it's probably not great, but I'm sure we can go through it. Anyway, she sat me down with the doctor, said, you know, you'll need chemo, and you go, okay. That's decision taken out of my hands.
Yeah.
How much are we going to need? You go 4 rounds. And I don't know. I haven't got a frame of reference. Is that 4 days? You know. And she says, well, it's going to be a full week, Monday to Friday. And then you'll come into clinic and have your bleomycin. And then the following week you'll come into clinic, have your bleomycin, and that's 1 round done. You go 12 weeks. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of rolling with those punches, taking 1 round at a time. I think one of the things that I struggled with is I felt fine. You know, aside from a lump on my left nut, I felt all right.
Yeah.
So you expect to go into hospital feeling rubbish and then coming out feeling okay again, but it was the opposite. So I was feeling okay. I was having the chemo, and I was coming out feeling worse. You know, so you kind of get to Wednesday, Thursday, and you go, oh, I'm really feeling it. And it gradually gets worse, and you think, oh man. And then by the time you're feeling better, back in for round 2, back in for round 3. It felt pretty well for me because the weeks that I was feeling better fell over Christmas. I was literally back in Boxing Day, ready to start like round 3. And my last one was just after my birthday. So, you know, I had my birthday feeling all right. And then that's it. Let's kick it.
Yeah.
Let's kick the last bit in. Did you have like a port or a PICC line or anything like that?
No, I never needed a PICC line. Did you end up having to get a PICC line to?
Yeah, it's pretty much standard procedure.
Right.
It's like down our neck of the woods.
I think because I only had 2 rounds as well. I think if you're going up to multiple rounds, and you are going to have that successive amount of weeks rather than reciting a cannula and things like that. I think it probably does happen up here, but because I only had the 2 rounds, you know, they just cannulated me both times. But
yeah, I think that was the first thing. I wasn't necessarily fussed about the operation, but it's when they said, "Oh, we're going to install a PICC line." What's that?
Did you get it in your neck?
No, I got it in my arm.
Got it in your arm, right?
Yeah. And he said, "Oh, okay. Well, it's just just this thing goes up there, and it's a tube goes into your heart." You go, "Oh, that sounds horrible."
Yeah.
And I legit did not feel it. Like, she numbed it. The only thing I felt was like it was an elastic band kind of tugging up my arm, but it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't as horrendous as I first thought. But I was so grateful for that.
Yeah.
Like on top of everything, like I couldn't feel needles going into my hand or anything like that. So once it was in, you know, it was all right. And weekly clinic, bit of a clean, bit of a new dressing on it.
Because I think that's the big worry with PICC lines as well, isn't it? The infection rate can go up. So that's why they don't tend to do it for short rounds.
Right.
But if having it longer, there's no need to be kind of, especially with chemo. I don't know if this happened to you, but I've got like a vein in my hand where one of my cannulas was, and you can actually see it running to about my wrist, and then when it gets to here, you see it brown and dead. So it's
that's not.
so
not
if you have that too many times, you're just killing off veins. Just gets harder and harder for them to do it for you.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's much fun at all.
No.
So yeah, that was my chemo. I kind of went into survival mode, I guess. I had grand plans of, having friends come over and keep me company and whatever. And it was, once I got in there, I was like, no. And I think you know what you need in those situations, and it's probably quite difficult for people outside of that. So yeah, there are a few things that helped me through. One of them was surprisingly Reddit.
Right.
So there's a testicular cancer forum on there, and it was absolutely an amazing resource for me because I could vent. I remember I had one day where I was just like, fuck this, fuck that, fuck you.
Yeah, aye.
And then afterwards, there was, I'd managed to post like, oh, I'm going to like wear this scar with pride, and I'm going to do what it takes to make the best out of this situation and make sure that there are positives and find those. And so, yeah, that was one thing that really helped me through. Another thing was Headspace.
Yep.
So the meditation app, mindfulness app. We got it through work, and it was priceless. There's kind of 20 different lesson sessions on there.
Mm.
And it was very tailored. And there was one that I remember really vividly, where it said, just be mindful of the people around you and kind of let them know how you're feeling. And I immediately reached out to my mum. I was like, I'm so sorry that I've been shut down. I know that you care about me, and it's massively appreciated. And it's not fair that it's not that I've been like left you in the dark or anything like that, but I've kind of shut down, and I'm sorry for that, and I'll try and keep that that kind of line of communication like open again, because you're obviously worried. If my son had cancer, I'd be at my absolute wit's end.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the kind of things that helped me through. Like, my friends were amazing. I didn't feel that sympathy was something that I coped very well with. So I reached out to a select group of friends and said, look, what I actually need is kick it in the dick energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the friends that came back, and friends and family that came back with that, were just amazing. Like, they knew what I needed instead of guessing.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of my colleagues, my uncle reached out. He was like, you got it, kick it in the dick. I was like, yes. See, that's, I don't necessarily need, I'm so sorry you're going through this.
Yeah. Because it's, for all it's nice, it's not helpful either, because you're kind of left in this limbo of like, you kind of almost want to make the other person who's giving you sympathy feel better. I always found, so it's like, if you were saying, Paul, I'm really sorry this is happening to you, I'd be like, no, it's fine, it's okay, and the kind of the roles reverse really, really quickly, and I was the same. I don't think my friends understand what sympathy is, so I was really lucky in that regard.
Amazing.
Yeah, I honestly, much the same. It's just that you've got this, like, fuck cancer. Do you know what I mean? That's essentially was the kind of war cry, and
yeah,
you do need that around you. You do need people just to go, right, I understand this is rubbish for you, and you're able to vent, and you're able, but I will also take the piss out of the fact that you've got one testicle. So
Yeah. Those are the friends you need.
Yep.
in those moments, and yeah, it's good, man. Yeah. People definitely understood the assignment.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So as I was kind of gradually going through chemo, I was getting more and more kind of conscious of this lymph node dissection.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't definitely on the cards, but my testicle was basically 3 tumors by the time that they operated on it.
Okay.
And it was a mix of different cells, and one of them was 40% teratoma, which doesn't react to chemo, but it's slow and dumb. So you think, oh, okay, right. Well, if it was in there, hopefully it was slow enough not to have spread. I was getting really worked up. So by like round 3, I went into clinic and said, look, is there any way that you can like hook me up with a CT scan just to check whether the chemo's working? He went, nah. And that not knowing was really difficult, because you're taking this like one step at a time. Oh, okay, well, you've done the removal, you got chemo, but you're taking it one round at a time. And you want the last bag to be like the last thing, right? I'm just going to get on with my life now. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So it was a fairly standard spread, like up the lymph nodes, and the chemo got most of it. But I think there was 1 or 2. There was one in particular. So on my initial scan, it was 2 centimeters. It was kind of in my, like really high up, kind of almost by my shoulder blade. And it's 2 centimeters. It's miles away from my testicle. It can't be teratoma. Of course not. So had the follow-up scan still there, like doubled in size. And you think, by this time it's the size of like a golf ball. I could feel it pressing. It wasn't pleasant. See, I'd had a car accident maybe 2 years previous, and I know that like back pain is like part of the symptoms. I just put it down to that. Testicle firmness and soreness. At the time, my son was 2.5. Like that's basically trampoline area. Like he's jumping all over the show. His head's about that high. He's just gonna run into me. Like I've taken some hits to the nuts over the last couple of years. So I didn't really think like anything of it until that lump came, and then throughout. Sorry, man.
All right.
So throughout the chemo, I was getting this kind of back pain getting worse. And the physio at the time of the accident said, "Oh, if you stand against a wall with like a tennis ball or something, you can kind of massage it out." And it was in exactly the same place. Okay, wasn't really helping. And then by the time I had my follow-up operation, it's the size of a snooker ball, just kind of embedded in there. And just see, at the beginning, I was scared of it because it's a 12-inch scar, like straight down. So I was shit scared.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, I was like, just get it out, man. I'm sick to death of like having cancer in my body. Whip it out.
Yeah. I'm
done. So they did a kind of prelim scan and said, okay, well, some of your lymph nodes are kind of quite close to your kidney, so we're got to be super careful around there. Probably be absolutely fine, but there's a risk. Anyway, first thing when I wake up from this 8-9 hour operation. So you have to take my kidney? She went, yeah. She gave me the full kind of breakdown of it. And it was just infected lymph nodes, like around the renal artery. Tried to avoid it, just nicked it a couple of times, and by the end of it, it was easier to remove it than it was to save it. So, yeah, been through the wars a little bit, but everything's all good now. I think about 18 months out of that, and keeping on top of my scans and my blood tests and this and that and the other. And one of the hardest things about it is constantly reminded that you had cancer. Like, you don't have it anymore, but all I've got to do is walk in front of a mirror and see, we've got this big scar. Or like some of the considerations, or, you're booking a holiday, but I need to declare that I had cancer. And so, yeah, that's probably been the most difficult part of my recovery, I think. Just the constant reminder.
Even just like looking at health insurance and things like that as well. It's like I was always getting like premiums that were skyrocketing high. And even now, it's like you're still trying to find something that, especially when you've got a young family as well,
Yeah, so I asked my partner if there was anything that she wanted me to say on this, aside from, like, obviously a massive thank you, because, she was best part of a single parent for, 9 months a year. It must have been absolutely horrendous on her. But her one thing was, like, sort your life insurance out. So we had our young'un, and we had him during COVID. And I was like, I need to get it sorted, And I'm glad I did then, because 2 years down the line, there's no chance that I get it for an affordable price now. Yeah. So glad I sorted that.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
I'd never really ever thought about it. Like, it's such a naive thing. Like, when you're in your 20s and then coming out.
You're invincible in your 20s, aren't you?
You just think, life insurance, I'm not going to need that, but yeah.
£10 a month, a couple of beers.
Yeah, exactly. You can forgo a couple of beers to make sure everybody's looked after.
Oh, I was the other way. I was, forgo life insurance for a couple of beers.
But your story's so, like, my wife has said this to me before, like, when we're starting the podcast, I was worried how, as each episode goes, will it just become this, same thing, like just the constant. And the one thing my wife said to me, she said, Paul, the cancer's the same, but the story's different. And you find that every time there's always somebody's stories that different or has, but there is always elements that are the same. And especially in that negative way, the start of your story of going to the GP and them going, I don't think it's cancer. Going to the next person, I don't think it's cancer. And so did I hear you right? Did you say you got scanned and then got an ultrasound and they didn't think it was anything, and then you got a second ultrasound?
It was inconclusive.
Inconclusive.
They said that there was lesions on it, but they couldn't determine what it was. Yeah,
which is so disappointing that, even at that, if it's inconclusive, I had Dr. Mike, who's so Dr. Mike was here, and I think his experience and what he was able to kind of say in it is that if anything that comes back like that, he treats something as cancer until he's told it's not.
Yeah.
And I think that there doesn't seem to be, there obviously is going to be GPs and doctors out there who completely do that, but you are finding more and more that, guys like yourself, and, we had a guy called Nathan on the podcast who went in to the doctor, it's not going to be cancer. Look at the statistics, it's not going to be. So we'll just treat it for antibiotics. And then there's this huge long waiting period. And
right.
you think, for you, if you had you've done everything right. You went, that doesn't feel right. You've went to the doctors. If they had just went and got you treated fairly quickly, you maybe would have had one round of chemo instead of 4.
Oh, mate, don't.
It's all these things, eh? It's. I think that's the biggest disappointment, and that's why, especially as Cahonas, we want to try and get that message out there. It's that I think even though there's a stigma amongst men to go to the GPs and speak about, balls, testicles, whatever you want to call them, openly, I think there's still a stigma around testicular cancer within the medical community as well.
I mean, it's such a low statistic, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is it 2% of men?
Yeah. So it's in the UK at the minute, I think the current statistics are 2,500 men each year, are diagnosed with it.
Right.
And that's UK wide. And I don't think it's not a huge amount of numbers when you compare it to like maybe prostate cancer, any blood cancers or even breast cancer. But it affects men in the kind of prime years of their life, I think, and that's the difficulty, because obviously, you're going through that, somebody with a young family as well, and it's what's more and more becoming a recurrent theme on the podcast is it's all well and good getting your physical health looked after, and the chemo's great and everything they do for you in that regard is amazing, but then bang, you have to then rely on apps like Headspace to help you, whereas there should be more about the kind of mental health side of it. Yeah,
and I think I was lucky to discover that. Mm-hmm. I already had it. It was not promoted anywhere. Mm-hmm. I already had it. I literally typed cancer into the search bar, and it's like, coping with cancer. You go, that's it. That's the one.
That's the very one.
Yeah. And funnily enough, I was listening to the Dr. Mike one on the way up. And even his like statistics were surprising. Like if you go to a doctor with a lump on your testicle, it's probably not cancer. Mm-hmm. And that's the phrase that I really struggled with. Mm-hmm. Because it's probably not cancer. Okay. Well, it is cancer, but you probably won't need chemo. Okay, so you do need chemo. You probably won't need your operation. Okay, you do need your operation. Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
All right.
You probably won't lose a kidney. You lose a kidney. There's all sorts of like after effects from it as well. You kind of gradually getting further and further less likely to go through my journey, which is great. It doesn't make me feel brilliant, but it's good that for somebody just starting out on their journey, that you probably won't have to go through as many steps.
Yeah,
I did. I was unlucky, and you find yourself like searching for answers. Mm-hmm. It's your brain isn't willing to accept that you're just unlucky. Oh, it must be something. Yeah. So you think, probably spray paint. I've been an artist for probably 10 years by that point, using spray paints. And then you think about it logically and you go, well, none of my other street art mates have got testicular cancer, so it's probably not that. And it is a struggle to think I'm just unlucky.
Yeah, it is that why me question, isn't it? Like, why did this happen to me?
Yeah. So you've had a ton of like sports people on here.
Yeah.
Is there, your mind must go, is there any correlation there? Is it, does it affect active people more? Yeah, you're just scrabbling for answers where there isn't one.
I think the weird thing is as well that even though, you know, that the guys who maybe aren't, you know, necessarily sports people, every person who sat in that chair has said, and I was the fittest I've ever been, and then discovered I got cancer. And you're going, that's such a bizarre thing. But, you know, you look at the episodes and you've got like a whole host of sports people, but you've also got like, there's quite a lot of comedians had it. And I says, God, you don't want to play sports or be a comedian, you know, it seems like a carcinogenic job. You know?
Yeah, I think I'm safe from both of those. Yeah.
But it's horrible to think though that that it could be, you know, these, even though it is a germ cell thing, so it is it's just a mutation of the cells, but yeah, why is it impacting? Or is it just that these people are more, you know, willing to engage in the conversation?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's, I think listening to your story and how it all unfolded for you, I think the biggest thing for me is that, you know, coping with losing a testicle's one thing in itself, but in that journey you lost a kidney as well, which is...
Got two of them, mate.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You got 2 testicles, 2 kidneys. I could have given up a lung.
Got just loads of spare.
Yeah. I think that's why you have 2, right?
Yeah, well, that's what they tell me. But processing that, so you've had your, like you say, you've had the testicle removed, and that's like a big deal, and you're probably at the point where like okay, just get it out. I want rid of this cancer. But the fact that, you know, when you've lost your kidney, how did that impact you mentally at that point, especially at that stage of your treatment?
I think because my surgeon was so blasé about it, I was like, that's probably not a big deal then, is it?
Right.
And you know, I've not had any issues. I keep going. I'm going back to my GP fairly regularly just to keep an eye on my various vitamin levels and full blood counts and stuff like that to make sure that, you know, there isn't anything untoward. Sometimes I can feel it, like when I'm dehydrated. It's a bit of a twinge in my back,
Right.
and that's just I need to drink a bit more water, and kind of mindfully being a bit more hydrated and stuff, and just kind of taking care of myself. So, as you said, you know, people who come on here are struck down in the prime of their life, I guess. And I think it was a bit more of a wake-up call for me because I'd let my physical health kind of slack a little bit. So I was determined to get back into swimming. And there's an amazing thing around Leeds called, the acronym is LEAP. It's Leeds Encouraging Active Partnership or something. And it'll give you discounted gym membership, full gym membership for £5 a month, just to help you kind of get back up to speed.
Right, which is quite amazing to have.
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
And it was another one of those things that I just had to go and seek it out. I found it by accident and, you know, sent them an email going, "Oh, I've just had cancer. Can I grab a cheap gym membership?" And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I remember one of the first times I went swimming after my lymph node dissection. See, I'd spoken to a therapist about it. Like, body image has never been kind of particularly high up my agenda, but I want people to be comfortable. So I was rocking this 12-inch scar, getting into a swimming pool for the first time, and there was a kid there who, before I'd even got in the pool, like looked up at me and went, "Oh my God." And it was that kind of moment of, I can either let this define me or I can just roll with it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that I can't go back in time and stop it. There's nothing that I can do to So yeah, I'm just gonna have to kind of roll with it, I guess. And yeah, I got in the pool, started swimming.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm glad I did.
Mm-hmm. It's a big thing as well, you know, even if body image has never been like a major factor, all these things do change, even after the orchidectomy. Nobody knows what's under your genes, yet there still is a kind of awkwardness, like I found anyway. You opted as well not to get the prosthetic, is that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
It was one of those things that, like, I just knew. So I was happy for me having one testicle to be my own little reminder of going through cancer. Mate, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't go back to having two. It's well comfy. And one of the guys that I had kind of met virtually through Reddit, he did. Shout out Sam and your disco testicle. See, he found that he was looking at just to make sure that everything was okay, and his glowed up bright orange. You go, wow, that's the coolest thing. Yeah, so yeah, maybe I missed out on having a disco bollock, but yeah, that's. And if for whatever reason I ended up needing both testicles removed, I was thinking I'd get 2 implants.
Yeah.
And it was just that weird thing of my body kind of knowing what it was okay with and like what it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think kind of anyone willing to stare at your testicles for that long, you know, you're going to kind of have some more awkward questions about why have you only got one. So yeah, you know, I'm happy with my decision. I know of people who haven't been, like, it kind of gets stitched onto the scrotum and seems a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For me. It's personal preference though, you know, and there may have been a time if I had it 10 years earlier that is something that I, you know, would have opted for. But you know, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does depend where you are in your life, because I was the same. You know, I didn't get it. You know, I spoke to one of my friends, Todd, who had testicular cancer twice, and we talked about, you know, you should, if they're doing it, you know, at least have functionality in it. You know, so if it is a disco ball, or if it vibrates or something, you know, just something useful rather. So that I was like, nah, if it's just going to be a silicone ball stitched to my nutsack, then no, I'm fine, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's just one more thing to go wrong, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's like,
see, I would have expected it not to be my right ball anymore, just my ball.
Yeah.
And have it like in the middle, but it's not in the middle. It's the weirdest thing. Like if you're standing there going, so my right ball is still on my right side, but my left ball isn't there. And it's so white. It's like having a baby in a king size bed.
It's
like, why aren't you just making the most of the space?
Yeah, starfish right in the middle.
Yeah.
But even when I'll say to Richie, you know, see if like I'm the same, like I've got my daughter's 6 now as well, but she's still like, she'll jump all over you. So when I'll say to Richie, I'll say, oh, Emily caught me right in the ball. And he'll still laugh, the fact that I'm just, he's like, I'm still not used to that being singular. You know, even though he started the charity, he's still not used to me saying that that singularly is, she got me right in the ball.
In the ball, yeah, on the bollock.
Straight on it. But see when you went back swimming, how did that help with your physical recovery after your dissection? Did it really help?
Yeah, core strength.
Yeah.
See, the recovery was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. and you gauge your progress day by day, and it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. But then when you look 3 days, 5 days, 7 days past, and you go, oh, I can make it halfway up the road, whereas I was struggling to just get kind of round the corner to next door's house, slowly like building that up. And when I was in a position to get back swimming, that was a huge thing for me. And then a few months after that, I decided to get back into snowboarding. Yeah. It was something that I'd learned a few years back. Like, call it a midlife crisis. You know, that's fine. Near-death experience, midlife crisis. And again, that's been great for like building up my kind of core muscles, because when they slice you open, they literally kind of like it's like straight down where your six-pack would have been if you had a six-pack.
I've got a full keg, pal.
Yeah, I was never had a six-pack. I've got a two-pack now. And you know, it's brutal because the lymph nodes that they need to get to are in your back, so they have to kind of flop all your guts out, and it's horrible. Like, I didn't want to think about what they were doing.
Yeah.
I was so grateful that it was maybe half a second of pitch black, and then I woke up again 9 hours later.
Yeah.
And then the surgeon in her little debrief said, okay, yeah, so your bed kind of bends almost too far up so you can open up the cavity, and you go, oh, I don't want to, no, don't want to know.
Please don't tell me.
Yeah. So it was held together with staples. Mm-hmm. And yeah, kind of slowly building that strength back up, and it was a fair old journey. Mm-hmm. But yeah, at least it's more comfortable.
Yeah.
More comfortable now. And you don't feel like doing the physical recovery. Mm. Like, all I wanted to do was sit and eat Dominoes.
The pizza, not the actual like small wooden blocks.
Yeah. See, during my chemo, they give you all these steroids, and all you can think of is fatty foods, and you get these intense food cravings. It would get to the point where I was waiting, like checking my phone to see when it was 11 o'clock and Domino's open, and I could order a couple of pizzas. It was ridiculous, like the chemicals that they put in. See, did you have like hydration stuff going through your stuff? I know obviously you had it at night. Did they kind of fill you up with saline as well?
Yeah. So like and I wonder if you were the same. I basically during my chemo never got a full night's sleep, with coming in to change it, but also see the amount I peed overnight. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad it's not just me. So they did ours slightly differently. You got given a backpack with 3 liters of hydration, which was kind of going through you over the course of 24 hours. And it's a lot to pee out. Yeah.
And your body can't process it kind of quickly enough a lot of the time, because you've got the saline going in, but also your drugs are, there's maybe 200 milligrams of whatever, but it's in a liter of saline. So that's another kind of liter that you need to process. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't process the liquid kind of fast enough. So within a day, I'd gained like 3 kilos, 5 kilos of just this water weight. And my hands were so fat, and I was so uncomfortable. And yeah, they weigh you every day, and you go, oh, how much are you weighing today? And it's 5 kilos more than I was a couple of days ago. And they said, all right, well, we need to shift that water weight. So they give you a diuretic. So you can have this at 7 o'clock, and by 10 o'clock, oh man, like needing to pee every half an hour. Like, it feels good, but it doesn't feel nice when you have to wake up every half an hour to go and flush it out. And you make this checklist. And so instead of just peeing into the toilet, you have to pee into this jug. And they only had kind of small jugs available. So so you pee in 500 ml. It's like, I've got more. This ain't going to do it. Kind of very quickly going, right, fill it up, right, 700. Oh my God, 700 at a time, and over the course of 24 hours. It was getting to a game by that point. Like I'd be texting the work chat just going, I can't believe I peed 9 litres.
Yeah.
Like over the course of...
That's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, but obviously needs to get out.
Yeah.
You know, the drugs are in such low doses because they're so potent. I was running some maths on the active ingredients of it, and it was like a couple of grams over the course of 12 weeks, but it killed off most of my cancer. And going, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And it's even over the last 30, 40 years that they've refined the drugs so well. You know, Dr. Einhorn is kind of pioneering. He's still alive.
Yep.
You know,
I tried to get him on this.
Oh, mate. I loved it. Yeah. Like the survival rates have gone up so quickly because of the research that he's been involved with, and the, you know, pioneering these drugs, that if I got it 50 years ago, like, or if my dad got it, you know, it could have been a totally different story.
And you just wonder as well, you know, you look at deaths in maybe the, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s. You know, how many guys maybe did have testicular cancer and died of that particular cancer, but, you know, autopsy maybe found it in the lung or in the gut and just went, it was just lung cancer they died of, but it maybe wasn't. You know, when you think of that, you know, I think the stats can always be a bit skewed as well. But if it wasn't for Dr. Einhorn, you know, you and I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
That's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, it really is. You know, the advances in it, and especially the way that they treat it now as well, I think it's, we got lucky in terms of where we are in kind of medical technology.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What is it, a 95% success rate?
Yeah.
Survival rate?
Yeah. It was up at 98 at one point, but they think because of COVID and men being really bad at going to the doctors anyway, that statistic fell again.
Right.
I think I want to say 3, because I've been working with Cahonas for like just over 2 years, and the statistics that we have in our self-check guides, you know, because, you know, we're only wee and we've got loads of leaflets left, but, you know, it still says 98, you know, and it is like 95, 96% now. So, but they do think that it's because of men's inability to want to go to the doctors, and I think.
So there was a nurse who I saw. I saw her twice before both of my operations, and she was like one of the pre-op nurses, where you should make sure that you were doing okay and help you fill out all your paperwork and kind of get you prepped for surgery into your sexy stockings and all that. And she said, "Oh, my fella's had a lump on his ball." He goes, "He gone to a doctor to get it checked out. No, you just won't go. You go, like, the partner of a nurse, like,
yeah.
And then I saw her a few months later for my, I was going to say my kidney operation. It wasn't that. My lymph node dissection. And, oh, did your fella like go to the doctors? No, he's not been. And you go, like, you just want to kind of grab people by the scruff of the neck and go, well, doctors have seen it all before. And
yeah.
Like, even if you're not comfortable about going to the doctor, like those months of feeling it, going, oh, is it something? Just for knowing.
Yeah.
You know, perhaps the antibiotics that I had would work on this nurse's partner.
Mm-hmm.
Then he can get a proper night's sleep and not worry about the lump on his nut.
Yeah, exactly. I know you come up against that so often. I remember doing a talk, and it was organised, and the member of staff who had organised it, you know, I was giving it to college students, and I was saying, like, let lecturers come in as well. And she went out to try and round up some of the lecturers, and people came in. And at the end of it, she'd said, I had one guy that I was really annoyed at because he didn't want to come in. I was like, you have to. He's like, nah. And this was his exact words to her, were, I don't want to know how to check my balls because I'd rather not know if I had cancer or not. And you're going, wait a minute. It's so curable, but it
so
spreads
treatable.
so fast as well. It's so treatable, yeah. It spreads so fast. So why wouldn't you want to know how to look after yourself better?
Yeah.
And this is somebody who's teaching this generation of young adults, and you're going, oh, come on. You know, it just
help you.
Yeah. And the fact that it was you know, I was saying to her, I was like, I've had this. You know, I've lived through having testicular cancer. Go and tell him to get his arse in here. And I just wasn't for it. But I think that's the barriers we're still trying to break down. You know?
Yeah.
So, aye.
Tell me about your Beer Mats for Balls campaign.
Yep. So Richie basically came up with this idea. It's something that he's had an idea for years now, and over the past couple of years, it's built momentum. And it was just, you know, sitting doodling, and then, you know, being in the pub and beer mats and men. Do you know what I mean? It all tied in together. So that it birthed from that idea, essentially, you know. And, you know, I think that when you have these types of ideas, as Richie often does, he is one of the best researchers. Like, and we were talking about this the other day, because if he had another type of job, he done his whole career in marketing and PR, but actually he could be a researcher for anybody because he just finds everything. And it started off with him just looking at Instagram and looking at art that he liked, because none of us can ever say that we are like art critics at all. You know, but we know what we like. You know, there's certain artists that I grew up liking. You know, like I'll say the name wrong because everybody always does, but I've always been a fan of Van Gogh. Always. You know, to the fact that, you know, Starry Night by Don McLean's one of my favourite songs because it talks about that painting. So there was an interest there, and to be able to kind of reach out to artists and, you know, just get little miniature works of art, you know, and auction them off, exhibition them as we did for that first year, to help raise money to essentially keep Cahonas doing what we're doing. You know, to have You've Got This boxes going out where, I don't know if you've seen them, but we've got that box that's a chemo care box. It's filled with stuff for guys going through, you know, any type of treatment, or even just, you know, guys who have been diagnosed with it, to just enjoy as part of that. You know, we can do that. And it's such a unique way of getting that message across, you know, because, you know, some artists will try and, you know, maybe do as a balls, but we just like it if they do their own art, because some people, you know, it's out with their comfort zone to do that. So if their own art is just right there in this tiny wee square, it just makes such an appealing USP, as they say.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's how I first found out about Cahonas.
Right.
I was recovering, and we have a ton of followers in common. It came up as a suggested thing. BMX for balls. Right. Well, I obviously wanted because it supports guys like me, you know. And you know, I thought it was amazing. Previously, I've been involved in the Background Bob campaign, where, I mean, rest in power, Noah. The guys have done amazing work. Bit of background, pun not intended, to that was Bob would paint these backgrounds, and artists were invited to kind of incorporate that into their work, and then auctioned off for the hospital where he was being treated.
Yeah.
Ridiculous sum of money raised, and it goes kind of above and beyond an artist, where you might say, oh, can you pitch in 20 quid? And you go, well, money's money. Like, everybody has kind of that varying levels of it, obviously, but it's such a common commodity. How about I can use my skills to raise some money? So I was really grateful for you kind of sending a pack out. And I would have done. Unfortunately, I had about a recurrence around the time that I was due to be kind of creating this artwork for you. And I had the grand plan in my head. I was going to use like original paperwork from my cancer journey to like draw a bit of a line under it. And the week before I was due to sit down and do it, I got a call from the clinic saying, we found something on your surveillance scan. You just go back into yourself then. Yeah. But yeah, totally up for doing it again this year. And obviously I'd encourage any artists listening to this as a bit of a call to action. You know, reach out, get involved, because I mean, you guys raised so much money last year for it. I was gutted that I didn't get the Ralph Steadman pieces.
Oh, really?
Man, so cool. And you know, hopefully, you know, we can make this grow and grow like year on year.
Yeah.
Because people want to support, and there's been various campaigns that artists have got involved with, and it's using their skills rather than, say, donating money.
I think as well for us, we're so taken aback by the generosity of the artist community as well. One, for their time, and artists must get asked these types of things all the time, but especially if you're in the middle of working on something, to take the time out to work on this little beer mat for Cahonas, but it done so well, and that when Richie announced that we were going to be doing it again, the amount of people who were like, 100% count me back in, or even people who maybe didn't have the time to do it the last time, or weren't, because you don't know, like, there's some random charity in Scotland's asking you for a bit of your art, you could maybe be a little bit sceptical, but that scepticism seems to have dropped now, and you're seeing these artists just going, count me in this is great, I want to be part of that. And we're inundated with such creative people, you know, offering that, and it just shows you, like, in this topsy-turvy world that we're living in, you know, people do care, you know, and I think that's the thing. And you know, to have, like you say, you know, like even the kind of Ralph Steadmans of the world, who, you know, if people don't know, you go and look at his work that he done for Hunter Thompson. You know, it's you know, having guys, you know, who maybe are up in the pantheon of art, but, you know, having up and coming street artists, you know, as well, adding in their time, I think is more valuable to us than anything, because, you know, there's some people who are working full time and, you know, have other things going on, and art's their passion, and they're giving us a little bit of themselves. And I think that's the thing. It's the thing that always strikes me, is that we're not just getting a bit of art, we're getting a bit of that artist coming to us. I know that sounds twee, but it's certainly what I feel, and I'm honestly, I'm always blown away by it. And I'm sorry, like, obviously that happened to you last year, but I'm so glad that, you know, you want to take part in it for this one.
Count me in. It's nice having that, like, restriction as well, where it needs to fit on that. Yeah. And you think, well, there are other art auctions where it's, oh, can you donate a piece of art, and you don't get given any, like, limitations. But even just that, it needs to be tiny in comparison to what I'm usually putting out, which is, you know, 1 meter high canvases, or painting directly, like, onto a wall. And you know, to scale it down is a challenge, I think. And it's good.
Yeah. I think it's opened, especially mine and Richie's, because it's funny that it's like, because we looked at these things so often, it's like, if somebody's art comes up, we're actually able to go, oh, that's such and such, or that's this person. And I had never had that before. But there's, like, different, like the different techniques and the different materials that are used, like, blow my mind at what people send in. You know, it's like yourself, you know, if you're using spray paint to do these things, and then you got, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but they had somebody send it in, and basically it was like the paint felt like it was really raised up off the beer mat. Wow. And it looked almost 3D, just because the you know, the whatever paint they used. But I realised, I was like, I really love the smell of these things.
Nice, yeah. That's get that in the eBay listings.
Yeah, so
it smells great.
It smells great, just, but and it's great, and it really helps us. It really helps us network within a whole different community that, like you said at the start of this, on the podcast, there has been a lot of, you know, sports people on this, but there's so many people who maybe just aren't into sport, and it's not necessarily, you know, lack of trying on our part, but to get into areas where people go, like, oh, I'm an artist, and I've heard David's story, I know who Cahonas are, and it's affected me, I'll come and speak, or, you know, and it is Cahonas, we just really want to try and get our message everywhere. You know, it's like, you know, big hopes is to, you know, go to Comic-Cons and things like that, just so that people are aware that, you know, it doesn't, it's so undiscriminatory, cancer, it'll go for you, it doesn't matter what you like, you know. So
yeah, it sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like the street art community is so, like, tightly knit as well, and there's two sides to it, because there'll be the people creating the artwork, but as passionately there'll be people who just love the artwork that's being produced as well. So you're hitting kind of both sides there, and raising money for those boxes. Like, those boxes must be such a beacon for people going through a really dark time. And so I've seen the contents and it ticks so many boxes that I didn't realize were boxes. So, you've got like containers of salt in there. And you go, well, that's amazing, because, throughout your chemo, you is it a lost taste, or you just kind of taste a bit hungover? So our team at work sent me a box of sriracha sauce, and it was one of the best things that I needed at that time, because just everything tasted so bland and so stale, and like I love my food, and I love spicy food in particular, but to have that, to hear my complaint that stuff tastes disgusting, and to go, we're gonna reach out, we're gonna send you a box of hot sauce, and it's like, it made eating enjoyable again. Each one of those things in your box has been kind of put in there for a reason, and you may not know the reason until you're going through it. What other bits and bobs have you got in there?
So we've got like soft bristle toothbrushes, because I don't know what happened to you, but my gums bled like mad the minute I put my normal kind of medium firm. I was like, oh wow. So knowing that that's in there, we've got like chilies bottles and things like that. So again, just that hydration thing. Even though you're getting hydrated with the saline, nothing quenches your thirst. Which because people think, oh, you're so hydrated because you got all this. I was constantly thirsty. So to have that, and have chilies, help donate these bottles as well is amazing. Again, just unscented soaps and things like that. I think just that nausea thing, it really is helpful as well.
You just don't think about those types of things until you're going through it. And if your gums start bleeding, when you get home I used to get home on a Sunday during the day. Like during that week, if your gums start bleeding when you're brushing your teeth, you go, I don't want to be going to the shops for a soft bristle toothbrush. And
sometimes you've not even got the energy to even want to. Yeah.
I was lucky enough that I asked my partner to do it and to go and pick one up for me, and she was able to. But to have it there available, just priceless. We had somebody's mum reach out to us recently. Her son is now 26 and had it like almost a year ago, and then she reached out just to say like thank you about the boxes as well, and she called it a hug in a box, and both Richie and I were like, that's what we want. That's all we need it to be. Is just it's just us knowing, Richie putting his heart and soul into creating the charity, me having been through it, and the two of us just want people to kind of feel looked after beyond the medical. You got some great things in there.
So as a roundup for us, if you were looking back, at yourself or to anybody who's, about to start their journey, and what advice and what would you want to say to either yourself or just somebody who's gone through it?
I think it would be just to take each step as it comes and not worry about kind of the next step. Deal with the cards that you have in your hand at that time, and if possible, don't even think about round 2, round 3, round 4. Don't think about follow-up operations and everything like that. Kind of be there in the moment, doing what you need to do in the safe hands of the hospital, I think. The mindfulness thing was amazing. The Reddit forum, if you do have any questions or if you do need to vent, that was great, because it's not just a resource where people who have been through it you can read up on. It's, oh, I've just been diagnosed, what can I expect? Or my gums are bleeding, is this normal? You know, so many questions come up, and there's a group of guys that are willing to answer that. And like, don't be afraid to reach out, and don't be afraid to reach out for what you need as well, because the people who are surrounding you in this horrible, horrible time are only second guessing what you need. If you need to be specific and say, oh, I just want a specific type of tea because normal tea and coffee for some reason are turning my stomach, then, you know, so be it. Like, and the people who are trying to support you will be grateful for that as well. We'll be grateful for that bit of direction. Because I got the feeling that the people supporting me were kind of throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what stuck. And yeah, to have that specific need met, like, people are happy to help. So let them help, but let them help in a way that will help you.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much for coming on Check 1 2.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been really, really good. It's been very therapeutic to get some stuff, get some stuff out there, and yeah, a real call to action for artists to get involved with the Beer Mats for Balls this year.
Thanks.
Do it.
Cheers.